good evening, everyone. Yeah, welcome to another episode of Entrepreneur Link, bringing you health, wealth, and wellness. For those who have seen me before, yes, my name is Kit, and today so happy to be bringing you this topic. Topic really after my own heart, called the art of Guasha. Okay, I know some of you are probably have experienced it before. Some of you may be curious and kind of log in to find out what it is all about. My attempt today is really not to make you experts at TCM experts, but to give everybody a good overall view. And hopefully by the end of the session today, you'll be tempted to pick up this natural meridian therapy. So let's get on with the webinar. Quick introduction of myself. Yes, that is me. And then my vision is very simple. My vision is really to help people slow down aging and stay healthy. And I use a variety of wellness approach, ranging from teaching meridian therapy. And yes, I am a meridian therapy trainer with Essentially Meridian, Singapore outfit. We are about 15 years into existence, and our mission and vision is really to bring this very simple to learn natural therapy, not just to all the family in Singapore, but all over the world. Yeah, and I've had interest in a wide variety of, natural therapy. And yes, I'm also, I've authored a couple of books, ranging from talking about wellness. And my latest book is actually coming out soon in Q4, just before around Christmas time. And I'm more than happy to share more details with you if you are interested. Okay, let's get on with the thing. Now today we are talking about natural therapy. So so let's go back a little bit into understanding a little bit about TCM and meridians, and I think it gives you better context. So we start with whole this thing. I was talking about me teaching meridian therapy. So let's talk about what are meridians in the first place. Okay, so think about meridian as these wondrous interconnecting channels that goes throughout our body. It's a pathway through our whole body. And for ourselves, we have what we call 14 main meridians. So for those who are Chinese, in Chinese we call them Jingluo. And then if you just think that meridian is a Chinese thing, no, because in the Ayurvedic medicine, they actually call meridians nadis. Okay, so in our body itself, we have think about it, we have 14 main highways, okay, 14 main meridians. Okay, now 12 of these meridians are what we call bilateral. Bilateral means if they exist on the right hand side, they also exist on the left hand side. And there are two main meridians right in the center of our body, okay, which we call the Ren Mai, Tu Mai. Okay, now for those of you who are Chinese, may have heard about all this kung fu fighting show where they always have this term, 如果你打通你的任督二脉，你就会天下无敌。Right, so I translate that to English. What it means that if I clear my Ren Mai and my Tu Mai, this main meridian right in the center of our body, wow, I will become invincible. Okay, so that is a very common term. Now, along all these meridian points are something we call acupressure points. Okay, and then along all these, think about it as if it's an MRT line, these are like the main interchanges. Okay, now along our meridians, there are approximately 365 main acupressure points. So you think about it, even if you take one day to learn an acupressure point, right, you will take you one full year before you will learn all the acupressure points in the body. Okay. Now, what is interesting is these meridians basically work in pairs. Okay, they work in like brother and sister. Okay, they work in pairs, and they all work together to govern what we call our systemic health. Now, take a look at the right-hand side. It's what we call a body meridian clock. Now, this is very interesting because every meridian in our body is active for 2 hours during a whole 24-hour cycle day. Now, this becomes quite fascinating because if you actually do the right thing at the right time, okay, you basically remain healthy. That's it. So, they have since ancient time, the Chinese know that if you actually live life according to how the meridians are being active, you remain healthy. So unfortunately for us, in our modern lifestyle, many of us actually don't live per the meridian clock, which of course end up leading to sometimes, quite a fair bit of health issues. Okay. Now, what is so important about this meridian is blood and chi. Okay, chi is like life force energy. Okay, the Japanese call it ki. The Indians will know it as prana. Blood and chi flow through our organs and our body meridians. Okay, and that's why it's important. Now, one of the big fundamental or traditional like Chinese medicine is really this, if your qi and your blood is not moving freely inside your body, what does happen to? It happens to something what we call a stagnation or blockages. Think about it as like a drain that's being blocked, a longkang that gets blocked. And when it becomes blocked, it leads to a situation where we call unbalance. Okay, so just imagine a drain or a water river stream, when the rubbish pile up and then, when you get stuck there, even the fish does not become very healthy because, the water is stagnant, and then over time, even any organism in it will be unhealthy. So similarly, right, if the qi and blood does not flow freely in the body, right, depending on where the traffic jam happens, okay, it leads to something called unbalance, and then, it leads to this thing called disease, okay, which means, something is kind of blocked inside the body. Now, let's look at what happens if it's unbalanced, okay? Now, it really depends on where the unbalance happens. Now, for example, if the unbalance happens in what we call the lung and large intestine meridian. Now, remember how I said the meridians work in pair? So like in this case, the lung and the large intestine meridian actually work hand in hand, right? And if the lung and the large intestine meridian is blocked, or unhealthy, well, it may lead to many issues, like for example, respiratory issues, sinuses, asthma, cough. You find yourself getting a flu and cold very easily. And also skin allergies. You will say, hey, what has the skin got to do with the lung? Because in Chinese TCM, the organ that's related to the lung, is actually the skin. So a skin condition like allergies, could be related to weaknesses in the lung meridian. Now, there are also certain emotions that are actually governed by the organs. So you find people who have always have this isolation, or some of you are all constantly cynical kind of stuff, right? It also could be a sign that there are weaknesses in the lung and the large intestine organ. Okay, now let's look at what happens if the heart and small intestine goes unbalanced, right? Can lead to stuff like heart palpitation, cardiovascular disease. And we always say when the heart and the heart is not calm and the heart is on fire, it can lead to stuff like insomnia, okay, of people who are very restless, overexcited. In fact, like for example, some people, they can play mahjong, play until they're so happy when they win money, win big, right? They die of a heart attack, okay? So overjoyed or too overexcited can be an issue, okay? Now, of course, when the heart is also, not stable, it also leads to things like anxiety or even depression. Now, let's look at what other organs, if it's unbalanced. So take the stomach and spleen. Now, is your stomach. Now, in Chinese TCM, it's very fascinating because whatever you eat in the food, think of the stomach as an oven or a furnace that burns up all the food and converts it to what we call the food qi. And then the spleen plays a very important role. In the spleen is like a distribution house, okay, distribute all these nutrients and all the qi throughout your body. So if your spleen is not working well, guess what? Whatever you eat as food, the nutrients cannot be absorbed well and sent to all parts of the body. So there are some people who, no matter how much they eat, they find that they always doesn't get fat. That's not necessarily a good thing because it may not be getting the nutrients that they need, right? Now, if your stomach and spleen is weak, what type of issues are you likely to be faced with? So with things like, digestive related issues, diarrhea. Now, I'll say low immunity. Why is that so? Because, for those of you who know that, in our guts itself, right, about 75% of the immune cells actually lies in your guts. So if your guts are unhealthy, chances are it actually leads to low immunity. So you find yourself getting sick very easily or getting a cold very easily, right? And sometimes you often get bloatedness or gas in the stomach. Okay, these are really some of the issues that could indicate to you that your stomach and spleen may not be in the best of health. Now, what happens if your liver and gallbladder goes unbalanced, right? Eye problems. Why is that so? Because the eye organ is governed by your liver. Right? So when your eyesight is weak, or you have eye problems, you go to the TCM, a lot of times they will actually treat your liver. Okay. Now your liver and gallbladder also plays an important part in detoxifying your body. So if your body is not well detoxified, right, it leads to a lot of issues related to liver. For example, things like fatty liver, right? Now, even for some ladies, right, your irregular menstruation can be due to weaknesses in the liver. Why is that so? Because the liver governs blood. And especially for ladies, the liver is a very important organ for you to take care of, right? Because it sends blood, and many of your woman issues are actually blood related. For example, your menses and so forth, right? Now let's look at what happens if the kidney and urinary bladder meridian is weak, right? Now you may not know this, but the kidney meridian, right, in the Chinese context is known as your body powerhouse. Okay, in fact, there's a very popular Hokkien term, for those of you who know Hokkien, right? Always hear the old grandma always say things like yo ji bo lat. Okay, if I translate that to the Western concept, what it means is there's no energy in the kidney, right? I mean, from the Western concept, we kind of wondering, hey, what has that got to do with what? And what do they refer to? Typically, they refer to the guys that can't get it up. Okay, things like impotence. Then they will say, oh, your kidney energy is weak. That's because the kidney actually is termed as your body's powerhouse. So when your kidney is weak, guess what? You end up with things like chronic fatigue. A chronic fatigue condition could be, no matter how much you sleep, you still feel like very tired, or you feel that you just don't have the energy to go do things. Okay. Now, even a low sex drive, okay, could be a sign that your kidney meridian is weak. Now, because the kidney is at the back, right? If your kidney meridian is weak, it can also lead to things like lower back pain, right? And when the kidney meridian is weak, you find that overall your chi is, weak. Now, one very good indication, people who have cold hands, cold feet, right? Now, tend to be typically the kidney meridian is weak because the blood chi is not flowing very well. And yes, even with people who have a lot of dark circles and dark eye bags, that's because the circulation around the eyes are not doing well. Okay. Now, the emotion that governs by the kidney is actually fear. So you have people who are already very fearful and so forth. It also could be a sign that the kidney meridian is a little bit on the unbalanced side. So interesting, right? Now, so the question is, now that we know that, if the situation goes unbalanced, so how do you deal with these conditions? And I mean, of course, many of us would know people of some of these conditions that I've just mentioned. So what do we do with them, right? So remember the blood and chi, if it's blocked or unbalanced. So the question is, how do you restore all this smooth flow of blood and chi, and also disperse all these, blockages in the meridians? So there are several methods, in the TCM. So these are some of the very common methods, you're probably aware of, right? Sometimes you feel very uncomfortable, you go for a massage, right? So what happens, during the massage, your blood and chi is flowing well, okay? So that's why after the massage, you just feel, wow, I feel really good right now. Now, sometimes when you find that, when the place is a little bit more blocked, the masseur might actually use their elbow, use their finger, and press to go and clear the spot. So those are what we call finger pressing, or they're putting point pressure on a very small spot. And some of those are familiar with things like cupping. And of course, some of you will have gone for acupuncture. So in acupuncture, it's the same. Acupuncturists will actually, take those needles, and then you put it right through the acupuncture points, depending on what the health condition is, and attempt to clear the blockages and, smoothen out the flow of qi. Okay. And of course, today, we are going to talk a little bit about what Guasha is all about. Yes, Guasha is also part of the way to restore your smooth flow of blood and qi, okay, and also disperse all this stagnant energy. So let's delve a little bit into the history of Guasha. Okay, now Guasha literally comprises two Chinese words. Gua basically means scraping, and then sha is a very interesting term. Okay, I'll explain a little bit later, right? Now, depending on where Guasha is practiced, yeah, in the Western world, sometimes it's known as spooning because people actually use a spoon to do guasha. Of course, I know spooning also have another meaning. Then, of course, scraping is the common word now. You also find sometimes it's called coining, okay, especially in Indonesia. In Indonesia, guasha is practiced in the form of a very traditional medical practice called kerik. And kerik, literally what they do is they use like a copper coin, okay, and kerik, if you translate that, the Indonesian word actually means to use a coin to scrape. Okay, now in Southeast Asia itself, guasha is quite widely practiced. In fact, in Vietnam it's called khao yo, in Laos it's called khao lam, in Cambodia is like see the word there koskao. Okay, simply explain, guasha is a natural therapy. Okay, where a lubricated skin surface. Now, note I say the word lubricated because if somebody is going to do guasha with you dry, you better stay away. Okay, the skin is typically lubricated and it is scraped typically in a single direction. Always is in a single direction in the attempt to produce this red color marks called sha. Okay, now in Chinese DCM, sha is produced where the flow of qi and blood is blocked. Okay, in the meridians or in the acupressure points over time, if you don't clear them and unblock them, in Chinese DCM, this thing called sha is produced. Okay, now let's just take a look at this. What is the benefits of guasha? Okay, of course, you can use it to clear the blockages in the body, and restore good flow of qi and blood. And also helps the body to detoxify, remove the toxins from the body. And some people, and for some of the athletes, they actually use it to relieve fatigue and also aching muscles. Why important, and if you actually use it with the correct TCM herbal oil, right? Guasha is also a way that you can actually replenish back good energy into the body. Now let's look at what your sha color actually means. Okay? Now, typically, when we guasha somebody and we see that, the sha doesn't appear, okay, it can actually means either two things. Either you're very healthy because you have been clearing the blockages regularly, so by the time you do it, it doesn't come out. But on the contrary, it also could mean that your body condition is very weak. Okay, it's so weak until the sha cannot come out when you do guasha. I've seen cases of it. So one of the things is we typically, for example, people who have cancer, we don't recommend that you do guasha because guasha may deplete more of your energy, and when you have cancer, your energy is already very low. Okay, so doesn't have sha can either mean you are very healthy or basically you are very low in energy. Now, more commonly, you will see more like a blood red color, what we call a fresh red sha. And typically we see the color, we say that the blockages is more recent, right? Anything that maybe it's been blocked there for maybe only like 4 to 6 months or a couple of months. So guasha is a good way to relieve. Now there have been cases where I've done guasha and then I see that it becomes a really dark color, dark purple or even very black color. Typically people who have this condition, they tend to have long problems, like for example frozen shoulder and things like that, where it just means that the blockages has been in the body for a very long time. Okay, now I'll just share with you some of the pictures of some guasha that I've recently done. So this is considered, I would say, blood red, not exactly very long. So I would say for her, her blockages may be anywhere from 6 to 7 months. And because she was a masseuse, so she was straining herself a lot, and she never take good care, hence the sha is a thing. And what I did was I also follow up by doing the guasha on her shoulder blades. And you notice that on the right hand side there seems to be more red than the left hand side, and it actually coincides with her feeling because her right hand side was actually very sore as compared to the left hand side. So when I did the guasha for her, you can actually basically notice that the sha is more pronounced on the right hand side. So this is, yeah, for those who are first time introduced to Guasha, this is what Sha actually look like. Okay. Now let's jump straight into, if you are trying to learn Guasha, we come to the first thing. Wow, choosing your Guasha tool. Now, this can be a very bewildering array. If you ever walk into a shop, or sometimes you go to Chinatown and you see them selling what they call, oh, do you want to buy a guasha too? Wow, then you look at all these sort of shape and sizes, some long ones, some short ones, and you get kind of wondering to yourself, oh no, how do I choose a guasha tool? Okay, now a couple of things, simple guidelines I would say is to look at this. Okay, one is know the material that the guasha board is made of. Okay, and then yeah, the shape. Okay, what type of shape? You can see they all come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, but don't be fooled. Okay, a good guasha tool will be able to serve many of the purposes. And of course, to me, I would like to emphasize a little bit on the scraping edge. I'm quite particular, especially on the scraping edge itself. Right? Now let's jump in and take a look at what do they make guasha tool out of. Okay, for example, now the best material to make guasha tool is this stone called a 扁石. Okay, 扁石, supposed to, the original 扁石 supposed to come from this place in China. Okay, and what happened, if you go according to fable, was that a meteorite a long time ago, probably crashed into the area, and then because of that, intermixed with the terrain there, and hence it actually produces this stone which has a lot of minerals. And in fact, the 扁 stone has been used since ancient China times. And what they did is when they measure the 扁 stone, they realized that, wow, the 扁 stone itself, even by itself, actually do emit quite a fair bit of different infrared and negative ions, which is actually good for healing. And because there's a very wide range of frequencies being emitted, so many of the practitioners tend to use a 扁 stone type of guasha tool. Okay, now it's by itself is also a very soft, warm, and delicate material, so that makes it very suitable to as a raw material to make a guasha tool. Now, of course, you also hear very commonly people use jade type of guasha. Guasha. In fact, I'm holding one in front of me right now. This is made of jade. Okay. Why do people use jade? Because jade is said to have the same chi energy, as the human, and the jade always have a good balance of yin and yang energy. And then the jade itself is natural cooling stone, which makes it very ideal for healing. Okay, my only gripe with jade is that if you do use a jade guasha tool, okay, I would say just keep it for personal use. Okay, don't use your jade stone. For many people, because for me, jade is a stone that's able to absorb energy from the human energy. And sometimes if you are using it for your own personal use, I do not encourage you to share jade type of guasha tools, generally across many people. Okay. Now, the other very common material that you often find that they make guasha tool out of is something called the buffalo horn. Now, why is that so? Because for myself, I always think the buffalo horn is the most economical option. Like the guasha board that I'm holding right in front of me is made of a buffalo horn. This is a buffalo horn. Cost you anything less than $12. And why is the buffalo horn so interesting? Because a buffalo horn, has cooling properties, and when you do it, it has the ability to improve your chi and your blood circulation. And more important, it actually dispels heat and removes toxin from the body. Now, more important to me is I find that the buffalo horn, if properly fabricated, is able to hold a very good edge to me, which is very important when it comes to for a guasha tool. Okay, so now we know that if you are a beginner, my recommendation is just find something made of the buffalo horn. Good enough, okay, for all the purpose that you need to use. Of course, if you have progressed to being a little bit more high-end, you want to be a bit more fancy, by all means, go for things made of jade, made of pian stone. There are also those that made from rose quartz, because people say rose quartz is actually good for the heart energy. Okay, so they do make guasha tools out of very different material, but very important, please make sure they are made of natural material. And for beginners, just go for something made from buffalo horn. Okay. Now let's look at the shape now. Okay, what shape would I recommend now for the beginner? I would really recommend that you consider a fish shape type of guasha tool, okay, which is what I'm holding right in front of me. Yes, that's a magnified shape. I find that the fish shape is the most versatile for beginners, okay, but get one that you are able to hold comfortably in the hand. Okay, I'll show you later. Now, what do I use the different areas for? For example, the broad area on top, I use that for broad area guasha. You know, for example, the stomach, maybe guasha the lung meridian, the gallbladder meridian. I use the broad area for the guasha. Now, I also can use the more delicate point and what we call the fish tail for things like very delicate work, like for example, facial guasha. Okay, so I can use that too. And the shark tooth thing that you see, below, I use that for head guasha. Okay, so the shark tooth can be very useful actually for you to do head guasha. So I find that, with one fish shape guasha, if you know how to use it properly, it becomes very versatile. And just to show you how I hold the guasha board, right? This is how I hold it. If I want to use very fine works, then I use the fish tail to do, for example, facial guasha. And if I'm doing the broad area guasha, for example, bladder meridian guasha or shoulder guasha, I hold it like that, okay, for my guasha. Okay. Now the other thing is, some of the things that I want to kind of mention about is probably the size of it need to be relatively comfortable to hold. Right, sometimes you get guasha board that's so small, like for example, like some like this one, even though it's jade, but it's so small that it's not very conducive to for me to hold when I want to do quite a fair bit of guasha. So the size is to me is quite important. So to me the buffalo horn is probably a good material because you get them on all sort of shapes and sizes. Okay. Now let's look at next a very important thing. Now they are gonna figure out the guasha tool. Right, is this thing called a lubricant. Okay, I cannot highlight more than enough the importance of always using a form of lubricant when you do guasha. Never let people do guasha on you dry, and likewise for yourself, never guasha yourself dry. Okay, now let's look at traditionally what are some of the things that have been used for guasha. Yes, okay, for those who's old enough to remember your grandma, when you are not feeling well, what she might do was go to the kitchen, pick up a porcelain spoon to use as a guasha tool, which is okay. And then guess what? She used water. She just, put water on the area where she want to guasha, and then she just used water as a form of lubricant. And yes, some of the grandmas have been using water as a form of lubricant. And then of course, they tend, in ancient China, sometimes in the villages and so forth, they end up using a very thick oil, okay, for it. So it can be things like a peanut oil, which is more thick and has some heatiness feeling. They use things like a thick oil to do guasha. And I've heard of people using things like tiger balm and wicks to do it. Personally, I'm not a big fan of using both of these because I feel that it's just too heaty on the body, and you will never end up using things like wicks and tiger balm for things like facial guasha, right? Because you'll probably end up clogging your pores. Okay, but yes, there are people who have used things like tiger balm and wicks for guasha. And very common, I've heard many people use some form of lotions, baby lotion, baby oil, to actually just provide it as a form of lubrication. And of course, sometimes you go to the medicated hall and say, hey, I want to guasha, and then the uncle just pull out some sort of Chinese medicated oil and pass to you. Now, generally don't have issues with that. My only gripe is, if you all know that when you apply anything on the body, especially chemicals, okay, within 2 minutes or so, you can actually detect presence of that chemical, okay, throughout your bloodstream. That's how fast chemicals can penetrate into the body. So if you end up using things that, if you just look at a bottle, even though you just say medicated oil, but you don't know what goes into it, then I would urge you to be a little bit more cautious. Always understand what you're applying on your body, okay? So many of these in the medicated halls, unless they are so clear with the ingredients and you know how to interpret these ingredients, then, do check because whatever you put in your body can get into your bloodstream very easily. Okay. Now I'll digress a little bit down here, right? Now, all these guasha acupressure that we talk about right now, we call mechanical methods. Okay. Now, the other thing is, when you get sick, typically, and then after you see the treatment, you go to the herbalist would prescribe herbs for you. Why is that so? Because herbs are a form of energy that can energize the meridian. Take for example, okay, things like the magnolia. Okay, this is not the magnolia milk that you drink. It's like a magnolia flower. Now, magnolia has been known since ancient times, okay, to be very useful as energy for the lung and the large intestine meridian. So likewise, different herbs will have different affinity for different meridian. For example, things like patchouli. Now, patchouli is used a lot for spleen and stomach issues. And if you think that, patchouli sounds very foreign or very fanciful, well, for those who are, who remember what is called bozai pill, and what do you do when you take bozai pill, right? Is when you have stomach ache, your mom will pop out this bottle with black color pills, that he bought from the medicinal hall, they call bozai pill. The herb that made bozai pill so effective is a herb called patchouli. And forsythia is personally one of my favorite herbs because forsythia has a very good detoxification effect on both the liver and the gallbladder. And of course, for ladies, who doesn't know about tang gui, which is Angelica, right? In the olden days, if when the young lady has finished up their menses, the mom will actually brew tang gui, for her to nourish back the blood. In fact, something is known as the ladies' ginseng for Angelica. So herbs has been known in many herbs as energy that can power up the meridians. Now let's look at in ancient times, how do you do it, right? I mean, even in these days, if you're going to see a TCM and then they write a prescription for you and then you go to the herbalist, you'll find what they do is they put together a whole bunch of herbs, and then what happened then, you actually take it home and then you brew it. The older ways, okay, they have a recipe of putting 5 bowls of water, boil all the herbs together, and then after a couple of hours, you reduce the water down to maybe one small bowl of strong smelling liquid. Sometimes it can be so strong that you kind of hold your nose before you drink it. So in the modern time, this is kind of not a very popular way because it takes time and it's very tedious. Okay. So thanks to companies like Avita, okay, now we actually have it in the form of a very easy to use, what I call energy in a bottle. Okay, now this is really a fusion of the East and the West. Okay, it combines the wisdom of thousands and thousands of years of TCM with what I call biotechnology. Okay, and more important, because it's 100% natural, I love it because these are very safe, convenient, and more important, it is very effective. Okay, so for me, my go-to, okay, of course everybody has their preference, but once you have tried these TCM herbal essential oils, you tend to never go back to any other things. Okay, so I use this a lot. Okay, this is really my go-to. First, it makes for very good lubrication. Second thing, what I love about it is its ability to penetrate very quickly into the meridians. And because we have all the different meridians in the body, okay, so the way it has been designed is, I can pick different oils to energize different meridians. Take for example, right? I could pick, magnolia, for example, magnolia TCM herbal oil to treat stuff related to the lung and large intestine meridian. So for respiratory issues, I might pick up magnolia oil to use. And then, for example, for some of the ladies, if they have a menses problem, then I would recommend them to use Angelica, okay, to apply on different acupressure points, and of course to do guasha to restore, good blood circulation. Now, of course, there are also different oils, okay, like Napan, okay, Hoa Xiang is patchouli, which is actually used for stomach issues. Okay, very interesting. And my favorite is forsythia because it detoxes the liver and the gallbladder meridian. Okay. Now let's jump in. Okay, now we have got the lubricant sorted out. We've got our tool sorted out. Some precautions for guasha. Okay. Now, these precautions, mind you, is also applicable to massage, okay? For some of you who are going for massage, so just hear me out. Now, first thing I would typically tell people, please no alcohol. Guasha is you are detoxifying your body when you do guasha. Okay, so when you take alcohol in, what happens is the alcohol in a way is a form of toxin flowing throughout the body. You are actually accelerating the flow because your blood is now flowing well after guasha. It's bringing all this alcohol throughout the whole body. So we say, look, no alcohol before you guasha. Okay. Now, we also don't encourage you to take painkillers. In fact, you shouldn't be taking painkillers. Now, painkillers, for some of you, for example, some of the ladies, right? When you have menses pain, you tend to take very strong strength Panadol. And this is because you felt that you didn't feel the pain anymore. You think your problem is gone, but in fact, it's not. So what painkillers do is painkillers just numb your brains from receiving the pain signal. Now, in TCM, when your meridians are blocked or very blocked, right, the body signifies to you that the place is blocked in the form of pain or discomfort. So you want to know which part of your body is painful. So when you take painkillers, when you guasha, it's not painful. You think that, hey, no, I don't feel anything, so there shouldn't be any problem there, right? So it disguises the problems. Now, we also do not encourage you to practice guasha when you are pregnant. Okay, why is that so? Because during pregnancy, the body undergoing a fair bit of hormonal changes, plus the fact that some acupressure points are very sensitive and not recommended for you to massage or even massage those points when you are pregnant. Okay, so for ladies, if you are pregnant, I would not encourage you, but you can still do oil massage. That would be helpful. Now, this next thing is I always emphasize to people, no bathing. After you do guasha, massage or whatever, is that please don't bathe for at least 2 hours. Okay, why is that so? Because your body pores are open. So if you bathe during that time, dampness can get into the body very easily and you can find yourself falling sick. Now, this is especially when you go for massage, when you use very cheap oil, right? And the oil, after the massage, you will leave yourself feeling all yucky with the oil and say, hey, I can't take it anymore. I want to go and bathe and clear off all the oil. That's absolutely the last thing you should do because, you can actually fall sick very easily. And guasha is typically, I would say, not an everyday affair, okay? Because especially when the sha has already appeared, okay? And then the next few days, what you should be doing is actually drinking more warm water to clear off all the toxin from the body. And you do not guasha again until all your sha has subsided. So depending on how serious the sha is, typically I would say, they should all clear in 3 to 4 days time. Some of the more serious ones might take up to 6 or 7 days. But typically don't guasha again until you find that all your sha has subsided. So these are just some of the basic precautions for guasha. Okay. Now, a lot of people always ask me, okay, so what type of guasha should I learn first as the very fundamental for a beginner? Okay, I would say then do this. Okay, I would say this is very easy to learn and very useful for the family. Learn how to do the bladder meridian guasha. Okay. Now, why is that so important? Because the bladder meridian guasha runs along the whole back of your body. So sometimes when you go to a practitioner, when they do the back guasha for you, what they are doing, in fact, is they actually guasha your bladder meridian. Okay. Now, why is that so important? Because you realize that all along the whole spine, because it runs throughout the whole body, okay, many parts of it is linked to all the different organs in the body. And then when you guasha it along the whole stretch of your back, you can actually observe where the sha appears. Okay. So first thing, remember the bladder meridian, because it's so long, it covers all the organs in the entire body. And of course, where the sha appears, okay, where depending on which spots is red at the back, it actually give you an idea of, which meridians could be a little bit weak. Then maybe you should go there and strengthen up that meridian again or clear the blockages from that meridian. Okay. Now, more important, this can be a very fun activity for the whole family. Okay, you can do it as a weekly maintenance for the whole family, and everybody should learn it so that you all do for each other. Now, we do not recommend that you guasha if you are still young. Okay, so typically we say if you're less than 12 years old, don't do guasha. But what you can do, you can just use your hand to do bladder meridian massage. This will have the same effect for your child too, and it's a very good way for them to bond together with the parents. Okay. Now, another typical guideline when you do guasha is we always start on the left hand side first. you know, where that part is where the heart is. You know, we always do the left hand side first before we do the right hand side. So even if you do a shoulder guasha, we will do the left hand side first before we do the right hand side. Okay. Now, for the basic, you know, how do you do a bladder meridian guasha? Very simple. Okay, you apply the oil mix, and because it covers all the meridians, typically when we teach bladder meridian guasha, we actually mix all the oils together. I will then lubricate the back of the body where we will gua sha. Now, typically, I will break the part into 3 body. Later, I'll show you a video. We will break the part into 3 sections, and we will gua sha each of the section. Now, how many times? Typically 20 to 25 times good enough. Okay, so we'll finish gua sha the left hand side first, then followed by the right hand side. Each side you do 20 to 25 times. Then you can observe where the sha appears. Okay, so you will see like two red dragons coming down the whole body. Okay, this is quite typical for bladder meridian gua sha. Okay, now sit back and I'll enjoy the next video where we kind of show you how the bladder meridian gua sha is done. So there's a wonderful demonstration of bladder meridian gua sha. And so if there's only one gua sha that you want to learn, you know, I would say learn to do the bladder meridian gua sha because it will be very useful. Okay. Now you can. Okay. Now, what other gua sha you learn that will be very useful is this one. I always tell people that, you know, once you have mastered the back meridian gua sha, try and learn the shoulder gua sha. You will find that the whole family will really appreciate you for it. Now, for the shoulder gua sha, because it's part of the liver and the gallbladder meridian, okay, this is the area that we are going to gua sha. And we, at the same time, when we gua sha that, we will also stimulate through acupressure points like the feng ci and the jian xing. Okay? These 2 points are very good for doing well. And the oils that we actually use, again, we will match the oil to the proper meridian. In this case, we'll be using a mixture of falciparum and vital meridian. Now, this is what so you will gua sha each side of the shoulder for 20 to 25 times, starting with the left-hand side first. And what is so useful about shoulder gua sha, you know, if you often frequently have headaches, some people have insomnia, even for stroke, stiff neck, stiff shoulder, wow, you know, the shoulder gua sha works wonderfully for stiff neck and stiff shoulder, and even for shoulder pain and shoulder ache, you know, shoulder gua sha will be very useful And remember, this was the lady that was doing the shoulder guasha for. This is how actually it looks like. And also for fundamental for beginners, I would strongly recommend that you learn how to do the back guasha and then also the shoulder guasha. Of course, the question is where to learn. As I say, we are a Singapore outfit. We've been conducting physical workshops and online workshops these days, especially the last 2 years, been conducting a fair bit. These are just some of the workshops we do, for example, facial reflexology, okay? Now, ladies, forget Botox, okay? If you want a natural facelift and then keep your body healthy, facial reflexology is the way to go. In fact, we always call this the natural Botox, okay? Yes, it's one of my favorite Guasha skills to teach and also practice. And for detox, we also teach how to detox. Detox is very useful for people dealing with stomach and spleen issues. We teach how to detox the liver and gallbladder by guashaing that area where the liver meridians and the gallbladder meridians are. And for distress, the shoulder guasha that I showed just now, we teach that in the distress workshop because, part of the effect of people under stress is always facing a lot of shoulder pain, insomnia issue. So we teach shoulder guasha during the distress workshop. And of course, we have the every one workshop where we teach you how to do an everyday problem like fever, cough, flu. In fact, the back guasha is actually taught in the every one workshop, okay? Because we say that, everyone should know how to do the back guasha. And of course, not forgetting the ladies, we also have the women workshop. In the women workshop, we teach you about how to use guasha to slim, how to take good care of your breast. Yes, breast care as part of using Chinese acupressure massage. Of course, dealing with ladies' issue like menses, menses pain, menses not coming, and also premenopausal things like hot flushes and stuff like that. So this is what we teach, typically as 5 workshops. By all means, if you are interested, more than welcome to contact me. Now, for today, just for the entrepreneur link, okay. Now, I'll be more than happy to send this booklet totally free of charge, okay, to whoever. What you just need to do, okay, what you need to do is just to write into me at this email. You can take a quick photo of it, okay, and say, I want, okay, I want the booklet or whatever, or you want to make inquiries, by all means, just drop me a quick note, or later I also leave my contact. You can also just, drop me a quick text, okay, or WhatsApp, whatever it is. Now, I'll be more than happy to send this booklet. And this booklet contains, what I've just told you very briefly over the presentation over the last hour or so. Okay. Now, I typically we have a question answer, but today our host is not around. So what I'll do is I'll just leave you with this slide. That is actually my contact. And yes, I help people to slow down aging, through the use of meridian therapy. And more than welcome to take a quick snapshot and add my phone number in and just give me a text or give me a shout out. Okay, more than happy to handle the call. And yeah, that's that. Okay, and I'll leave you with some music. I'll leave the slide on for a while and then you can just take your photos. Okay.